No one noticed the quiet man at the back of the church at first. He wore an old but carefully pressed suit, his hands rough, his posture humble. He looked like he didn't quite belong among the polished guests, the luxury dresses, and the whispered talk of money and status. But before the ceremony was over, every single person in that room would be staring at him. And when the groom suddenly stood up, looked him in the eye, and called him boss, the entire wedding froze in shock. Before we begin, take a moment to support the channel. If stories of kindness, compassion, and unexpected humanity move your heart, please subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. You're watching Kindness Action, where small acts of goodness lead to life-changing moments. The story begins with a woman named Claire Whitmore. In business magazines, she was known as a billionaire investor. In private, she was known for something else entirely: quiet kindness. She didn't talk about it, didn't post about it, and didn't expect recognition. Claire was preparing for her younger sister Emily's wedding. Everything was elegant, from the historic venue to the guest list filled with lawyers, executives, and high-profile friends. Yet there was one guest who stood out, not because he was famous, but because no one expected him to be there at all. His name was Daniel Reed. A single dad. A warehouse supervisor. A man who had once slept in his car with his 5-year-old son when life fell apart. Claire had met Daniel 5 years earlier on a rainy night outside one of her office buildings. She had been leaving late when she noticed a man struggling to fix a flat tire, his little boy sitting quietly on the curb, clutching a worn backpack. Claire didn't hesitate. She helped them, paid for a motel for the night, and listened as Daniel shared his story. He had lost his wife to illness. Then he lost his job. Then his home. But he never lost his pride, or his determination to protect his son. Claire didn't give him money and walk away. She gave him a chance. She connected him to a job at one of her logistics companies. Entry level. No special treatment. Just opportunity. Daniel worked harder than anyone. He showed up early, stayed late, and treated people with respect. Over time, he earned promotions. Not because of Claire, but because of who he was. Claire stayed out of his way, checking in only occasionally. She watched him rebuild his life quietly. A stable home. A college fund for his son. A sense of dignity restored. When Emily's wedding approached, Claire surprised everyone by inviting Daniel as her personal guest. Some questioned it. Others whispered, "Why bring a warehouse manager to a society wedding?" Claire simply smiled and said, "Because he matters." On the day of the wedding, Daniel almost didn't go. He felt out of place. But his son, now 10 years old, looked at him and said, "You always tell me to be brave, Dad." So Daniel went. As the ceremony began, the groom, Michael, stood at the altar. He was confident, successful, and respected. No one knew that years ago, before his rise in the company, Michael had been a young operations manager struggling to prove himself. Daniel had been there then too. Back when Daniel was promoted to supervisor, Michael had been assigned to his team. Daniel trained him patiently. He defended him when mistakes were made. He taught him leadership by example, never yelling, always listening. Michael never forgot that. As the ceremony paused for a brief transition, Michael's eyes scanned the room. Suddenly, he saw Daniel. His face changed. Without thinking, Michael stepped away from the altar and walked straight toward him. The guests murmured. Emily looked confused. Claire's heart raced, unsure what was happening. Michael stopped in front of Daniel and smiled. "Boss," he said softly, with genuine respect. The room fell silent. Michael turned to the guests and spoke clearly. He explained that before his success, before the titles and the confidence, there was a man who believed in him when no one else did. A man who taught him what real leadership looked like. That man, Michael said, placing a hand on Daniel's shoulder, is why I stand here today. Tears filled Daniel's eyes. He tried to speak, but couldn't. Claire watched as people who had once judged quietly began to applaud. Slowly at first. Then louder. Some wiped away tears. Others smiled, humbled. The wedding continued, but the energy had changed. Conversations shifted. People asked Daniel about his journey. They listened. Really listened. Later that night, Claire sat beside Daniel during the reception. He thanked her for everything, for the chance, for the belief, for the invitation. Claire shook her head gently. I didn't change your life, she said. You did. I just opened a door. Daniel smiled. You opened it when I needed it most. As the evening ended, Claire watched her sister dance, watched Daniel laugh with his son, and felt something deeper than pride. She felt purpose. Kindness doesn't always look grand. Sometimes it's a tire changed in the rain. A job offer without judgment. An invitation that says, you belong, and sometimes, years later, it echoes back in ways you never expected. If this story touched your heart, remember this: you never know who is watching how you treat others. You never know whose life you might change with one simple act of kindness. So open the door when you can. Offer help when it's inconvenient. And believe in people, even when they don't yet believe in themselves, because kindness, once given, has a way of coming back, stronger, louder, and more beautiful than you ever imagined.